GearNetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network. You're listening to the Better Live Than Dead podcast on the Gear Radio Network.
And with that, we welcome you to the Better Live Than Dead podcast, powered by Better Live Than Dead and the Gear Radio Network. This is episode number 166.
166. I dig it. I like it.
You almost didn't make it.
Almost, but we did.
Super Bowl. It's the Super Bowl 54 preview cast, or for those counting at home, Super Bowl Liv, like Liv Tyler, the chick on Armageddon, whose dad is Steven Tyler, who was terrifying on the Grammys on Sunday night.
Yo, bro, he was scary looking. His voice stunk.
Well, like he's like 71 right now or something like that, which is totally fine.
Like,
But the thing that freaks me out about Aerosmith is that Joe Perry, he's a great guitar player, don't get me wrong, but he's had a couple issues over the past few years where he ended up going into like cardiac arrest. He almost died. It just seems like his guitar playing is like slowed down. So they're trying to do Walk This Way, and it's just like really slow and clunky, which again, I get it. They're in their 70s, but like, bro, you're killing me.
Steven Tyler out there looking like a scary ant.
You know, he does look like a mean Aunt Karen for sure.
For real.
But for being however old he is, 70 or whatever, 71, he can still bring it.
Yeah, he can. Good for him.
Also, super goddamn creepy that he pulled those two girls out of the crowd, like dislocating their shoulders almost.
Yeah, right. You know, I enjoyed seeing them with Run DMC, like bringing that back. I tell you what, though, Rev Run looks rough. He needs to. I mean,
they all kind of have aged. Yeah.
Yeah, he needs to drop a little LBs. Not that I want to talk, but you know what I'm saying. So
rude. Hey, we're starting a podcast off on the right foot, though. You can hear us on BetterLiveThanDead.com, GearNetwork.com, Apple Podcasts, Bullhorn, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Pandora, the Radio.com app, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. I am Ryan Wolfe at Wolfe BLTD, joined on the IndyCard Media Hotline by Mr. Perez himself at MRLG Perez Lewis. How you doing today?
Man, you know what, bro? I'm all right, man. I'm all right.
It's a weird day for sure. We saw what happened on Sunday. I really wasn't sure how to put this in the podcast because this is a joyous time. It's the week of the big game. It's the week of the Super Bowl. But I would be remiss if we didn't talk a little about Kobe Bryant.
Exactly.
Kobe Bryant and his daughter. 7 other people passed away tragically in a helicopter accident on Sunday in Calabasas, California. Yeah. It's hard to wrap your head around it because I mean, I was on the internet at the time when it dropped. I clicked on TMZ and said, "There's no way," and then nothing was out at the time. So I'm doing searches and searches and searches, and then I see something about a helicopter crash, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then my investigative journalism comes in hand when it says, "Well, here's the wing number on the tail." I Google it. Right. Come to find out, it's Kobe Bryant's big old helicopter that he used to fly from point A to point B to get to games to get back to home on time. And it's hard to believe. And it's so tragic and so sad.
You know, especially since, you know, you saw him, like, if you watch the NBA, and you saw LeBron pass him for you know, the most points, third of all time, then you saw Kobe there. Then you saw Kobe's tweets. And, you know, Kobe was a big part of the NBA even after his playing days were through. He spent a lot of time at the Staples Center, and he would play with the young kids. You know, anyone that knows me knows that I'm not necessarily a Kobe fan when it comes to him as a player, simply because of the fact that when he had Shaquille O'Neal on his team and they rattled off, you know, a couple championships, he wanted it to be his team, so he effectively got rid of Shaquille. And in my opinion, if you had not done that, you could you could have won a couple more. You know, there's a good chance that instead of 5, you might have 6 rings. And then the whole talk about the greatest may shift a little bit. So because of that, I wasn't a fan of Kobe, what he did. He matured later on. And unlike Michael, he actually took on a mentoring role. So his impact on the game of basketball is huge. He's easily probably one of the top 5, maybe top 3. And you know, it's sad. It's the whole situation with him mentoring his daughter. His daughter was heavy into basketball. You know, there was a couple cool clips where I think Kobe was on Jimmy Kimmel, and he was saying how he had someone tell him once that he needs to have a son to carry on his basketball legacy, and his daughter Gianna was like, "Hey, I got this," you know. And you saw him courtside showing her the ins and outs of the game, and you could tell that she was into it. And from what I understand, she was a very good player in her own right.
Absolutely.
So, you know, it's a big loss. It really is a big loss, and it was kind of surreal to see how much coverage was dedicated to it yesterday, and some of today. You know,
I think it makes you realize really quick how much he transcended the sport. I know he had his off the court struggles, and obviously not only personally, but he was. I guess it's weird because he passed away. You have people putting out their well wishes, and everyone's like, "Well, yeah, but he was also accused of rape and arrested for sexual assault, or at least I don't know if he was ever arrested." No,
he was never arrested.
Oh, it was said he was arrested in summer 2003. It was so long; it was 17 years ago. He was arrested in connection with an investigation into a sexual assault. Apparently, long story short, Brian thought it was consensual, but apparently it was not. It was not viewed that way. Nothing ever came of it. But again, Kobe Bryant, there's always that's hung over his head. And that's the first thing people wanted to kind of attack him for after his death was announced. And I mean, there's a time and place for it for sure. I don't think hours after he passed away tragically is the time or place. I mean, Kobe Bryant goes down in the record books as one of the greatest of all time. We'll remember him for his good and the bad combined. I mean, that will never, you'll never be able to change the fact of what happened. And, I don't know the right way to say this. I just never was the biggest Kobe Bryant fan. I thought it was pretty screwed up how, because he was rich and famous, he kind of gets away with whatever he wants. But again, end of the day, he has over the years showed an ability to change and become a better person. And in post-retirement life, clearly you saw that as well when, as you mentioned, he was mentoring his daughter and trying to help her out, chase her dream of one day going to UConn, playing the WNBA. And it really seems like he was doing the right thing, and just
he wanted
tragedy.
To be a family man. You know, he really took a vested interest in raising his kids, and a lot of times you see people in his type of position that don't really seem to do that. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that's the one reason that's the one reason he traveled by helicopter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he said he wouldn't be able to train back in his days with the Lakers. He wouldn't be able to train and be in tip top shape, but also spend time with his kids. The one way to go about that, or to go around that, would be to get a helicopter so he could fly to the arena, train, do all the media stuff, fly back home. He said he would wake up in the morning, drop his kids off at school, hop the plane, go to work out, train, all that stuff, come back, pick his kids up. And he said that was what he did.
Right. And that's awesome. Like, that's, you know, and he'd been flying back and forth by helicopter for 20 years. So it's a fluke accident, and it's terrible. Terrible.
Absolutely.
And
now,
if you
we're still getting news coming out now. I know the NTSB was talking about what was going on, and they're talking about a whole lot of different angles here right now. And I think the situation it comes down to, at the end of the day, this is going to take a very long time to figure out what exactly happened. It definitely seems like It definitely seems like weather played a factor. It's very foggy. But again, we won't find out probably for, I want to say, maybe a year or so. That's usually how long this all takes.
Right. Now, allow me a second
Sure.
to address something. I'm not going to name the individual, but if they listen to this podcast, which I believe they have in the past, and you can bleep this next word out, Ryan, if you would like, or John, or whatever goes into post-production. But to the individual I'm speaking with who put that particular post on Facebook, not the female, because I had words with her also, but the guy, you are a certified piece of shit and you need to grow up. He posted something on Facebook literally hours after Kobe Bryant died that was super disrespectful and it was uncalled for. You are a piece of shit. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
That's again, time and place. It's not the time nor the place.
No, exactly.
Let the man's family grieve.
Yes.
Let all the families who lost members grieve, and then if you want to give it some time,
I called him out on it. I called him out on it, and he was like, "Oh, I was just sharing it to show that there's people out there who are rude and shouldn't post stuff like that." I was like, "But you
don't share it."
Yeah, you literally just shared it. No context. You just shared it.
Yeah.
So you must have agreed with it. And so, this is the second thing in like a month where he shared something that was ridiculous, and you're a piece of shit. There you go.
That's fair, and that's a good place to pivot. I think to the reason that we are here today. We are, Lewis, less than a week away from Super Bowl 54 or Super Bowl Liv Tyler Super Bowl Liv Tyler, as I have now so gracefully coined it. The Kansas City Chiefs play host to the San Francisco 49ers at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, Florida. I drove by that stadium when I was in Florida last spring, and I saw it in the distance, and it is absurd. It is obnoxious. With that being said, I'm glad that you guys tuned in for that groundbreaking insight from me. I appreciate you. The three big things brought to you by FortunePhoto.com. First, Lewis, how did we get here? That is the first of the three big things this week. Kansas City, 12-4. They were the AFC West champions. They scored the fifth most points in the league with 451. All these stats are regular season unless otherwise noted. Sixth most yards per game, 379.2. They also had the fifth most passing yards at 281.1 passing yards per game. Now, Kansas City allowed 349.6 rushing yards per game. That is 17th in the league. 128.2 rushing yards allowed per game. Also, one of the worst in the league with 26th in the league. Head coach Andy Reid has 207 career wins coming into this game, most for an NFL head coach who has not won a Super Bowl. He is an offensive innovator, one of the first to blend the run-pass option with his offense. His coaching tree includes Super Bowl winning head coaches John Harbaugh and Doug Peterson. Andy Reid, Lewis, has done everything but win the big game in the National Football League. What are your thoughts before we move on about the Kansas City Chiefs?
I honestly think that they have an excellent chance. I like how their offense is set up. They got a good defense. Not a great defense, but it's
real quick, Lewis. What I put out there, I'm going to go out on a limb here. They have a 50-50 chance.
They have a 50-50 chance. That is 100% correct. If they don't win, they're going to lose.
Thank you, Booger.
No problem. You're welcome.
Oh my God, we should be arrested.
The way that they're going to win is by scoring more points than the San Francisco 49ers.
I think, as you mentioned, sorry, I was reading something. I think that, again, if they don't lose, they'll win. If they don't win, they'll definitely lose.
Absolutely. 100% correct.
I think what's going to happen here is something we'll talk about in a few minutes because I don't want to spoil it, but it has something to do with the stats I mentioned. And I want to mention, too, the NFC West champion, San Francisco 49ers, 13-3 on the season. That's how they got here to the Super Bowl. Liv Tyler. 479 points scored. That is second most in the league. Excuse me. 381.1 yards per game. That's fourth most in the league. 144.1 rushing yards per game. Second most in the league. Excuse me. They allowed only 281.8 yards per game. That's second best in the league. And 281.8 yards allowed per game. Second best in the league. 169.2 passing yards allowed per game. That's best in the league. Head coach Kyle Shanahan also has some warts he's trying to freeze off. Looking to clear the slate from his past Super Bowl woes, Lewis, Kyle Shanahan was the Atlanta Falcons offensive coordinator when the infamous 28-3 happened.
Yes, well, yes.
I've got a feeling, Kyle Shanahan was dogged, and maybe it wasn't totally his decision in the Super Bowl, but he was dogged for not being aggressive. Got a feeling that maybe this time around, he might be a little more aggressive.
He might be a little more aggressive, absolutely. I would like to see Andy Reid win one. He's been in the league for so long. He had great teams previously, but like subpar quarterbacks. Like Donovan McNabb was a good quarterback, but he wasn't like great. So seeing that he's going against Kyle Shanahan and knowing what happened last time that he was in the Super Bowl, I'd imagine that he's going to be much more aggressive.
Now moving over to
a team that can be much more aggressive.
Absolutely. Moving over to our Super Bowl 54 preview so we can get a little more in depth about this talking. Looking at it, Bleacher Report, I think, has the best the best way to explain this game. It's, quote, the unstoppable force meets the immovable object. You've got Kansas City with their swarming technique on defense. They've been able to stop Derrick Henry, the best running back of the second half, the best running back of the postseason. They held the NFL's regular season leading rusher, I may add, Derrick Henry, to 69 yards. Nice. After he averaged 188.5 yards in Tennessee's two previous games. But San Francisco is averaging 235.5 yards per game this postseason. Now, Lewis, can Kansas City use that swarming technique on defense I mentioned to stop a San Francisco run game that has amassed 471 yards and 6 touchdowns on 89 carries this postseason? That is 5.2 yards per attempt.
I believe they can. And they've shown that they've been able to do it. And I believe at this point, you get a couple weeks to study and learn patterns. So I believe that absolutely they have a chance to be able to shut them down with that style of defense.
Now, I certainly think, and going back to the stats here, I think, because obviously we talk about San Francisco, they have a great pass defense, which we'll talk about in just a moment. My thing is I believe, if nothing else, that that it will probably come down to whether or not Kansas City can stop the run. Because I feel like, and don't get me wrong, I think Patrick Mahomes is incredible. I think the run game of the 49ers is better overall than the pass game of the Kansas City Chiefs. Call me crazy. That's just how I feel. That's how it's been this postseason. Patrick Mahomes has been great, don't get me wrong, but I feel like the 49ers rush offense, the multi-headed monster that it is, if it's not one guy, it's another guy. I certainly think that has been more effective. Now you're comparing like 1A to 1B, don't get me wrong, but I think that's what it's going to come down to. If San Francisco's run game can be stopped, you're going to tell Jimmy Garoppolo to beat them. And I think that, can that happen? Absolutely. But if you're putting the ball in Jimmy Garoppolo's hands, things are probably going to lean more towards Kansas City.
Garoppolo is a young quarterback. He hasn't been really too tested yet. It's like everything we've talked about in the past. So you talk about a young QB or being in a big game like that. They haven't been there. They don't know what to expect. The week leading up to it is a circus. Like, can you stay out of trouble? Can you be prepared? So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Now, San Francisco's top-ranked regular season pass defense, 169.2 yards per game, will face one of the best passing offenses in the league, as we mentioned. Can San Francisco, led by Richard Sherman, hold down the future Hall of Famer Patrick Mahomes and his Chiefs offense? I mentioned it. We've been talking about it kind of on and off here. But Kansas City's offense is averaging 304 passing yards per game this postseason. The key to beating Mahomes just might be keeping him in the pocket. Now, we mentioned that because Mahomes has looked unreal out of the pocket this postseason. And look, he can extend the play like the best of them. He can throw the ball across his body, throw the ball downfield, throw the ball into double, triple coverage. He does not care. But you have to make him feel uncomfortable and get that pressure on him. If Nick Bosa is in his face, I certainly think that San Francisco will be very pleased with that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But Mahomes has shown time and time again that he can scramble and create plays. He's got incredible downfield vision. I'm not. It's a matchup I'm looking forward to seeing. As much as I don't want San Francisco to win this game, I think it's going to be a great game.
I certainly think so too.
I agree. Keeping him in the pocket will be key. And if you can't do that, the San Francisco 49ers are going to be in trouble.
If nothing else, just contain him in the pocket or contain him to the pocket area. Because if he's able to roll out and extend the play, you're in trouble. Doesn't matter how good Richard Sherman is, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, I wanted to mention.
No matter how good Richard Sherman is, the Kansas City Chiefs have some wide receivers that it's very difficult to keep pace with in that 3-second time frame.
I mean, Kansas City's offense is predicated on speed.
Yeah.
Everybody on that offense is fast. I'm even convinced the offensive lineman could probably run a 4.5.
Probably. They're all fast.
Now this is the craziest part about this game is that like the matchup itself is everything that you could have wanted out of a Super Bowl. This may be one of the best we've seen in a long time. Strictly based on paper, because you've got an offensive genius in Andy Reid. You've got a very smart offensive mind in Kyle Shanahan. You've got two very smart defensive minds in Robert Saleh and Steve Spagnuolo. I mean, every aspect of this game is going to be coached to the best of its ability. It's going to be incredible to watch. And honestly, I mean, with how Kansas City's offense is blown up, I wouldn't be surprised if you see this game end up being, 30 or kind of like the Patriots and Eagles game where just a lot of points are scored. And that would be so much fun. Now, the other thing too, Lewis, you got to remember, if San Francisco can get Kansas City up against the ropes early, they have to go for the kill shot. We've seen Kansas City rally from 24 in the divisional round and 10 in the conference championship. If you have the chance, take them down. And again, as I mentioned before, if Kansas City can shut the run down, they're going to force Garoppolo to win the game with his arm. Can he do it? We've seen it before, but we've never seen it on this level. So There's a lot of storylines going into this, but there's also a lot of fun it's just going to be a lot of fun to watch this game, as you mentioned. I mean, I'm getting excited just talking about it because you figure the halftime show is going to be great. The pregame show is going to be great. Demi Lovato singing the anthem. That'll be great. She was great in the Grammys too. Then you've got two of the best teams in football facing off for the Vince Lombardi Trophy and immortality in the NFL's 100th season. You can't ask for much more.
I just don't know if you could deliver a kill shot against a team like KC, because like you
the
said,
only kill shot you can take, Lewis, you just have to keep scoring, and you can't take your foot off the gas.
Right, and we've seen them come back from 24 points down by the halftime. By half, they went down quick and came back quick. So,
for God's sake, they were down 24 and ended up leading by half. It's crazy.
Right, absolutely, 100%.
Now, looking at our third of the three big things this week, prop bets.
Yes.
I got some fun ones here. From your everyday bets all the way to the downright absurd, Lewis, you're going to be doing some prop bets here on the podcast today. First off, over under 3.5. How many ads will feature dogs?
I'm going over 3.5.
I'm going to take the under just for fun. How many times will Alex Rodriguez be shown during the halftime show? Over, under, half a time?
I'm going to say over.
I mean, that's an easy one. It's got to be over because even if they show him once, you win the bet, right?
Right, exactly.
Yes or no? Will MC Hammer say too legit in a Cheetos commercial? I'm going to say yes because this is very specific.
It's almost too specific, which means there must be a Cheetos commercial with MC Hammer in it that we have not seen yet. So I think yes.
That itself is too legit.
To quit.
Hell yeah. Last fun one for you, Lewis. And then we're going to get to some serious. Oh, no, we've got a couple more fun ones. Well, this is the last fun one. And then we're going to go serious. We're going to get football game serious. J-Lo, halftime show. Will J-Lo show butt cleavage during the halftime show? Yes or no?
I'm going to say I hope so.
I'm going to go on a second over-under here. If J-Lo shows butt cleavage, Lewis is going to need 5 minutes alone in the other room.
Well, listen. If there's any Super Bowl show where you want there to be a malfunction of clothing, it's when J-Lo and Shakira is on stage.
Just go watch the movie. Go watch the movie Hustlers, man.
So I'm looking forward to this halftime show.
I had a feeling you might enjoy it. Now, looking over at serious football ones now. Heads or tails on the opening coin flip. What do you got?
I'm going heads.
Now, mind you, last 5 teams to win the opening coin flip have gone on to lose the game. This has gone back and forth over the years. You win it, you lose. That's just how it goes. It's predetermined. It's made up like wrestling. You lose the game if you win the coin flip, whatever. Demi Lovato, as we spoke about her a second ago, length of her national anthem, over under 2 minutes.
Oh, definitely over.
I'm going to go over 2 strictly because there were some scouting reports done on the betting sites. I went on to get this information. Her performance of the national anthem for Mayweather-McGregor in 2016, 2 minutes, 12 seconds. I'm taking the over on that one, like I mentioned.
Absolutely.
Now, color of the Gatorade shower, I won't ask you what your bet is, but I will tell you. Red has the best odds, followed by clear/water. Also, MVP odds. Patrick Mahomes understandably leads the pack, followed by Jimmy Garoppolo, Raheem Mostert, and Nick Bosa. It looks like if Kansas City wins, it's going to be Mahomes. If San Francisco wins, the field, essentially.
Exactly.
Now, looking ahead, there's not much to look ahead. We'll talk about the big game next week. We'll wrap up the football season. And don't look now, Lewis, but it's February in a couple days.
That's banana crackers, by the way.
And you all know what that means. You know what that means?
Well, I mean, it means it's a leap year.
Spring training, baby.
Spring training.
Baseball back, baby. The Red Sox are going to trade Mookie Betts for spare parts and some peanuts, baby. It's going to be great.
Catcher's report.
Yeah. I'm going to lose my goddamn mind because some dumb
we need to
shit
save
is
the Mookie.
Lewis, some dumb shit's going to happen, and I'm going to be mad about it.
Yes, you are. We need to save the baseball talk for when it actually happens. Because if the Boston Red Sox trade Mookie Betts, that's just going to be okay.
Although this is the most wonderful time of the year, don't get me wrong, because with spring training comes one of my favorite times of the sports year. Best shape of his lifetime of the year. Players come back and they go, bro, I've been busting my tail all off season. I've been lifting. I've been dropping weight. I lost 10 pounds. I put on 10 pounds of muscle. Cut my body fat down by 15%. I'm in the best shape of my life. And then that guy's in the DL by May.
Yeah, right.
But best shape of his life season is upon us. The Super Bowl Liv Tyler is upon us. J-Lo butt cleavage upon us. And probably a beautiful
like
Demi Lovato national anthem that will make me cry a single tear is upon us. I felt like remember the movie Ready to Rumble with David Arquette?
Yeah, absolutely.
In the Titus Sinclair, where he's like, the WCW title is on the line. One man's life is on the line. That's what I just felt like right there.
Right. I think you're a Demi Lovato fan.
I like Demi Lovato a lot. We can't talk about it on the air. I'm going to get in trouble.
Hey, man, listen, I ain't going to tell anybody.
The podcast people.
Debbie is a talent. She's got a great voice.
She's very talented. She's very talented. But hey, Lewis, before we go, we've predicted the Super Bowl before. Let's predict it one more time. Give me a score. Give me a score to take down. Who do you got? What's the score? And lock it in.
I got the Kansas City Chiefs winning the Super Bowl at 33-30.
I am going to go the San Francisco 49ers. It's going to be 34-31. And the Super Bowl MVP is going to be Jimmy Garoppolo.
I would say it's going to be Patrick Mahomes because I'm going with Kansas City. So
that's fair. But I didn't want to predict the same as you. So that's what the fun part is we can just talk out our asses and then pretend it never happened.
Well, we all know that my reason for wanting Kansas City Chiefs to win is purely selfish. I don't want San Fran to have 6 Super Bowl rings.
My phone just told me that somebody stole a bicycle off of a porch in Batavia.
Awesome.
Oh, boy.
Well, it wasn't you. We've been talking for the last, 35, 40 minutes.
Yeah. Well, hey, with that being said, I am Ryan Wolfe at Wolfe BLTD. Lewis is at MRLG Perez. This has been the Super Bowl Liv Tyler Previewcast. That's the name of the podcast because I forgot about it until I scrolled up. Episode 166. Again, Lewis, I appreciate you joining me. Enjoy the Super Bowl.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. And as
I'm sure we'll send each other some texts during the Super Bowl.
I'm sure we will. And as always, you know it. We know it. We've perfected it. We are better live than dead.
You're not.
We will catch you sometime very soon. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Enjoy Demi Lovato and the J-Lo butt cleavage and some Shakira and Jimmy Garoppolo and future Hall of Famer Patrick Mahomes. Appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you soon.
Doses.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.